What if everything you present to the world is a carefully constructed lie? A deception so ingrained that even you, the architect of this illusion, have come to believe in its permanence. This is the predicament Carl Jung describes in his analytical psychology, a predicament many of us find ourselves in today. Jung defined the persona as an adopted role or behavior that we present to others. It's our public face, the character we play in the theater of life. But what happens when this performance becomes our reality? When the character we're playing starts to eclipse our true selves? In today's episode, we dive into the concept of the persona and how it can crush us when we over-identify with it. We explore the anxiety, the fear, the very essence of what it means to live a life disconnected from our true selves. Let's begin. Imagine yourself on a crowded street, navigating the bustling crowd. Suddenly, you catch sight of yourself reflected in a shop window. The person you see is dressed impeccably, radiating confidence, engaging effortlessly with everyone around them. You recognize that person, yet there's a sense of distance, as if you're observing yourself from afar. This is the persona, the image you project to the world, the role you play. But what happens when the boundaries between the persona and the real you blur? What happens when the applause of the crowd drowns out the voice of your true self? In Jungian psychology, the persona is a psychological construct that serves an essential function in our social interactions. It's the mask we wear, the face we show to the world. According to Jung, the persona enables us to adapt to different social situations, allowing us to take on the behaviors and attitudes expected of us in various contexts. It acts as a shield, protecting our vulnerabilities and presenting a manageable version of ourselves to others. However, the persona can become problematic when it's overdeveloped or rigidly adhered to. Jung warned that when we over-identify with our personas, we lose touch with our authentic selves. We start to base our sense of identity on external perceptions and societal expectations, rather than on our core values, beliefs, and experiences. This detachment from our true selves can lead to a sense of fragmentation and disconnection. We essentially become actors trapped in a play, reciting lines and performing roles without genuine engagement. Our lives turn into a charade, a series of calculated moves to maintain the image we want others to see. But why do we do this? Why do we build these walls so high that we ourselves become imprisoned within them? Jung suggested that the root of this behavior lies in our deepest fears, primarily the fear of rejection and judgment from others. We construct our personas as a defense mechanism to protect ourselves from the pain of criticism or the discomfort of disapproval. By molding ourselves into what we think others want us to be, we try to gain acceptance and validation, thereby reducing our anxiety and uncertainty. This brings us to the central question of this discussion. What happens when we over-identify with our personas? What are the consequences of living a life disconnected from our true selves? According to Jungian psychology, when we become too attached to our personas, we essentially cut ourselves off from our true identities, which he refers to as the self. This separation creates a void, a sense of emptiness and meaninglessness in our lives. Jung described this state as a kind of spiritual death. We cease to be authentic, living instead as copies of what we think we should be. The irony is that in trying to protect ourselves, we end up imprisoning ourselves. The persona becomes a cage, restricting our freedom and authenticity. Furthermore, living a disingenuous life can be incredibly exhausting. Constantly performing, maintaining facades, and hiding our true selves takes a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. We're like Sisyphus, pushing an unending boulder up a hill, always striving to uphold an image that's ultimately unsustainable. Jung noted that this constant pressure to conform and perform can manifest as anxiety, neurosis, or even psychosis. It can also lead to a sense of identity crisis, where we're unsure of who we are or where we're going in life. Let's take a closer look at this phenomenon. Imagine someone who's built their entire identity around their work, their job title, their salary, the prestige of their company. These are the pillars on which they base their sense of self-worth. They're known in their industry as a top performer, someone who always delivers. But behind closed doors, they're a shell of their public persona. They dread going to work, their achievements don't bring them joy, and they feel a deep sense of emptiness in their personal life. Their persona has become their sole reality. Another example could be someone who presents themselves as the perfect partner, someone who's always available, attentive and nurturing. But beneath this persona, they're struggling with feelings of inadequacy and fear abandonment. They're trapped in a cycle of seeking validation through their relationships and constantly trying to shape their partners into the ideal image they want to project. Or someone who uses social media to curate an image of success and happiness. They carefully select the pictures they post, crafting a narrative of perfection that draws admiration and envy from their followers. Yet, behind the screen, they grapple with feelings of isolation, loneliness, and a sense of not measuring up to their own unrealistic standards. These are just a few examples of how the persona can dominate our lives, how it can become the lens through which we view ourselves and our interactions. Jung warned that the more we identify with our personas, the more they distort our reality, turning our lives into performances rather than genuine expressions of our true selves. He believed that this distortion leads to a fragmentation of the psyche, a split between our conscious persona and our unconscious shadow, which contains our repressed desires, instincts, and emotions. When the persona becomes too rigid, Jung suggested that the shadow can no longer be contained and may manifest in destructive ways. This can result in sudden outbursts of anger, impulsive actions, or even mental breakdowns. In essence, Jung argued that the shadow, when left unexpressed, corrupts and twists, and when it erupts, it does so violently because it's been denied expression for so long. It's like trying to hold back a dam. At first, you can keep it in check, but eventually the pressure becomes too much and it bursts forth, causing widespread destruction. Jung used the metaphor of the mandala to represent the goal of psychological wholeness. The mandala, a symbol of balance and harmony, embodies the ideal state of the psyche where the persona and shadow are integrated into the larger context of the self. Achieving this integration, however, requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront our deepest fears and insecurities. Jung's concept of the persona and its impact on our lives is a powerful reminder of the importance of authenticity and self-awareness. It challenges us to examine the roles we play in society and the images we project to others. He urges us to strive for a life that's more than a performance, a life that reflects our true selves rather than the distorted versions of ourselves that we may think others want us to be. So now tell me, what part of your carefully crafted mask are you ready to let go of? What lies beneath the surface of your persona, waiting to be acknowledged and embraced? Your persona can become a source of great strength, a defining aspect of your identity that propels you forward in life. However, it's crucial to recognize the potential dangers of over-identifying with it. By understanding the complexities of the persona and its impact on our psyche, we can begin to navigate this delicate balance. We can learn to harness the power of our personas while safeguarding against their potential pitfalls. Remember, the journey towards authenticity begins with a single step, a step towards self-awareness and a willingness to confront the shadows that may hinder our path. Are you ready to take that step? And so we come to the end of this exploration into the depths of human psychology with Carl Jung's concept of the persona and its influence on our lives. If you found this video insightful, I invite you to consider subscribing to our channel and joining our community. By doing so, you'll be part of a growing network of individuals who appreciate the power of psychology in shaping our experiences and perspectives. Thank you for watching.